Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I am Sharon Green Middleton, Vice President of the City Council, representative for the 6th Council District, and Chairperson of the Economic and Community Development Committee. This afternoon, we will hear the following bill, 22-0140R, Informational Hearing Permit Reforms. In attendance today, we have John Bullock of the 9th District, member of the committee. Odette Ramos of the 14th District, member of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And we have Tiffany Macklin, Deputy Director for Legislation for the Office of the President, and representative of the Office of the Mayor. We have Tyler Janella for Government Relations. Let's begin. Bill number 22-0140R, Informational Hearing Permit Reforms for the purpose of inviting representatives of the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Office of the City Administrator, the Baltimore City Fire Department, Office of the Fire Marshal, and other relevant parties to provide information on reforms to the Department of Housing and Community Development's permit process. This bill was introduced on October 3rd, 2022. This bill was introduced by Councilmember Ramos, and we'll take comments next from Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee, for bringing this back up to get an update from DHCD as to where we are in the reforms of the permit office. They've been diligently working on making sure that we hopefully won't have many more emails from people who are asking for help to deal with the permit office. And we understand that there's technology that's being implemented. I'm interested to learn more about sort of workflows and other reforms that are coming up, and when exactly the new office will be announced. We were promised that we would get a new permit office in January of 2025. Well, last year we got a promise it would be January 2024, which didn't occur, so because they were working diligently through the process. So looking forward to getting a status update and making sure that we have a sense of what's coming up, and can also ask our questions about some of the things that we've been getting in terms of ways that the council members have had to intervene. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, for having this hearing.
You're welcome. So we do have a presentation from Housing, but we'll go ahead and get the approvals from the City Solicitor's Office, the City Administrator's Office, and the Fire Department. And then we'll go ahead and move for the presentation for Housing. So the City Solicitor's Office, do you approve for form?
I would assume so, Madam Chair. Tyler Schnella on behalf of the Mayor's Office. I'd say the Law Department stands by their bill report.
And the City Administrator's Office?
We support the resolution.
Thank you. And the Fire Department?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Chief Ames, representing the Fire Department. We have no opposition to the bill.
Thank you. Any questions to these three agencies from committee members?
I do have a question for the Fire Marshal, but I don't know if it's in the context of DHCD's presentations. I'm hoping that your office has been working diligently with OPI and with DHCD on improvements of workflow and how this is all going to work when we get a new office. Can you shed some light on the improvements that your office has made, whether you've gotten more reviewers, whether you need more reviewers, those kinds of things?
Yes, we've been working with Deputy Mayor Justin Williams and OPI to add more personnel to our office. As you know, our primary problem is not the process, it's the amount of people we have working. The amount of plans and inspections have increased drastically since my beginning in 2018 to now, probably about a 33% increase in amount of activities that we have. To that point, we have a contractual plan reviewer, Mr. Michael Keisler. He will be beginning in November. We're currently down two inspectors at this point. We have a promotional test that will begin in the next 2 weeks, so we will be backfilling those, so we will be up to the full complement. And then working with Mayor Williams, he's trying to add another 3 positions at least to our complement. And once we get that, I believe our customer service and efficiency will greatly increase. Again, we have increased our activities by a third over the past 5 years. So that's the updates that we have. Of course, the deputy commissioner will add, we're going to a new permitting system, which should make the process a lot better at that point.
So if I may follow up?
Sure.
So you're down 2 inspectors, you're gonna get, hopefully you're going through the process of hiring. And how many inspectors do you have total?
I believe the current total right now is 25.
25, okay.
Yes, inspectors.
Okay. And then the 3 positions you talked about, those would be reviewers, plan reviewers? You need to turn the microphone back on.
Those inspectors would be just general inspectors, the one that do your use inspections and your annual inspections. I elaborated that we're hiring a contractual plan reviewer in November. They went to the BOE, I believe, last week. It takes a little bit of time after the BOE, so he should be coming on board in the next 2 weeks or so.
So how many plan reviewers will you have after that?
Right now, as you know, the plan review section consists of about 4 people. The additional positions we're working with the deputy mayor would be for that section.
Oh, I thought you just said that these additional 3 positions were gonna be inspectors. They're gonna be reviewers?
I said that we working to create 3 additional positions in the office, and they will be part of that.
The reviewers?
Yes.
Oh,
correct.
okay, great.
So the inspectors are also the plan reviewers too. We do dual roles.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Makes sense. So, so the total plan reviewers then, after these 3 positions are added, would be 7, or you'll be at 4?
It will be 7.
7, okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, because one of the things that we've obviously been dealing with is, backup,
Yes.
from your office. It's definitely something that, so the deputy mayor is just adding that as a budget enhancement for your office.
So the deputy commissioner's been in the meetings. I'm not sure exactly at what point in time he's going to add that, but I know we've been talking about.
It sounds like it's for the next budget, yeah?
Yeah, positions. Yeah, probably next budget. Yes.
Do we have I didn't ask anybody from finance to be here, that's my fault. We'll ask that from finance as to when we're gonna see it,
Okay.
come up, unless it was already in the past in the budget. Okay, can we make that a request from the committee that we find out whether these additional positions were already in the budget, that we've just got to go through the creation process, or if they're gonna be in the 2020, what are we doing? 2025, 2026 budget.
And what positions are these?
These are the reviewers, the 3 positions that Chief Eames is working with Deputy Mayor Williams on, that are going to be both dual inspectors and reviewers
Right, that's correct.
in the fire marshal's office.
And we would need that information before Monday.
Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate that. And I realize that, this is obviously a process, but if we already knew that we were doing a total redo of the office, I would have imagined that would have been in this budget, because that is something that we've been talking about for a long time. So that's why I'm wondering,
The question is if it was in the FY25 budget.
or if it's gonna be in the 26 budget.
Got it.
That way, Chief Eames can, be relieved of all the emails that he's getting from us.
So I just want to basically just clarify what I just said, because I saw you asked a question to follow up. We have 2 vacancies in our current,
Right,
current
so that's this
allotment,
year's
which is
budget.
25.
Yeah.
When we have our promotional test, we will backfill that. I
Yeah.
work with the deputy mayor to increase to the 3 more positions. So that our plan review and fire protection systems will have a total of 7.
Right, that's what I have here.
Okay,
Yep,
all right, thank
Yep, I got it, okay. Great, okay, yeah, because I think that's really been, I think your process has always been fine, it was just in terms of capacity, yeah? Okay, great, and I don't know if you were in the room, I'm sorry, I forget what hearing it was, but my colleague from the 5th District had asked the mayor's office if we can have a site visit into the permit office at some point in the next few months, and we would want the fire marshal to be a part of that. I'll follow up with our colleague from the 5th if his office is going to organize that or if that's going to be through my office, but we'll figure that out.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
Yep, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Any other questions from committee? Moving on to the Department of Housing and Community Development, you have a presentation, and we'll go ahead and start with that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We are pleased to be back here today. Stephanie Murdoch, Director of Legislative Services for DHCD, and to my left is Deputy Commissioner Jason Hessler. Just to start, I wanted to say that we are committed to improving the permitting system and the process. We aim to provide a user-friendly workflow with ease of access for all of those folks that seek a permit in the city of Baltimore. So we have prepared a presentation today, and we will jump right into that with Deputy Commissioner Hessler. Thank you.
First couple slides are a repeat from the prior presentation, but then there is new information coming up. So just want to let you know that. So permitting is a very important piece in Baltimore City. It really gets down to life, health, safety of the occupants and residents of Baltimore City. And it includes zoning review, plans review, work with other agencies, Department of Planning, Department of Public Works, Department of Transportation, Health Department, Fire Department, BMZA, as well as the inspections piece. In fiscal year 2023, we issued over 40,000 permits, and in fiscal year 2024, just under 40,000 permits. So far this year, we're at 9,800 in the first quarter. So on track to have another 40,000 permit year. What I guess in about 7 years ago, we were doing around 26,000 permits. So a considerable increase in the number of permits with very little staff changes or the upgrade of any systems. So we are in the process of replacing our current software that we use to track permits and complete inspections and review plans. The current system was built in-house. It's around 15 years old. It was built by our staff. It was cutting edge at the time that it was built, but the times have caught up to it, and it can't be supported with current BCIT assistance, and it needs to be modernized. It was never, the in-house programmer was a great programmer, but it was never built with the website expertise of design and review. And so in searching for a new program that we could buy off the shelf, we were looking for something that would meet 80 to 90% of our needs without having to be customized greatly, to avoid any problems in the future with upgrades to that system and then delays in the particular customizations that were created for Baltimore. We were also looking for something that would provide customer ease of access, ease of use, which would then cut down on delays in the permitting process. If people are able to go through, similar to like TurboTax, and answer all the questions, and at the end, hit submit, and our staff get a complete application that has everything in it, that permit's going to process a lot faster than if we have to keep communicating back and forth, asking them questions. Who's the owner? What are you trying to build? What size is it? What height is it? Where is it going to be located on the property? Those are all things that back and forth ends up causing more delays, and it bogs down our staff and other agency staff in the city with the review process and what they can accomplish in a day. So those were the goals in replacing this, user-friendly, live application status updates, so more transparency. I think that when we go live with the new system, you'll see that the applicant will have a little bit more access than what they have now, so they can track their permit a bit better through the approval process and see what they've uploaded and inputted into the system. But they can also grant guest access to the property owner or other contractors they're working with, so that those people can also follow along and see where that permit is, both through the permitting process piece and the inspection piece. And then our public-facing website. So if a neighbor across the street sees construction, right now when they go on our website, they can see a permit was issued, they can see about a sentence and a half of the description, but they don't know the full description or what's going on there. So we will be opening that up so that there's a lot more access just at the general, resident of the city view to see what's going on with any particular project. So even if a property owner or developer is not granted guest access to that permit by the contractor, they could still go onto the regular website and see a lot more than they can see today and know that, in fact, there is a permit on the property and here's where it's at and here's what it covers and here's when it expires. Or here's when the inspections occurred or why they didn't occur. We think that'll cut down on a lot of the contact that is currently coming into the office where people are saying, my inspection didn't occur today, or my contractor's telling me the city's delaying it. And in fact, when you look into it, it wasn't scheduled for that day, or the contractor canceled it because they had a conflict, and they just push it back on the city as the city's fault or the inspector's fault. So if everybody can see into the system and we provide that transparency, we think it'll be better for everyone involved. Our goals are to reduce the data entry time for the majority of permits to below 15 minutes. It is set up very similar to, the Tax Pro type of software where you see a question, you answer yes or no, or you input a number, and you just keep moving through it. At the end, if you need to upload documents, it'll tell you what documents to upload. You'll be able to add your contractors from the existing list of contractors that have already licensed with the city. So it should be pretty smooth. And once you've submitted one permit, a lot of your contact information and all that can be saved, so you don't have to repeat entering that in the future. So that'll all help the user and staff.
On that one slide, before you move on, do you have any planned, like webinars or things
Yes.
set up?
Yeah, we're working very closely with BCIT, and there'll be trainings not only for our staff and other city agency staff, but then we'll have some in-person trainings. Those are all that whole training program is being planned out right now. But our
Great.
goal is to have some in-person trainings that are recorded so that then they can be put on the web as different chunks of webinar type. So, if you're looking for a particular piece, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but you could go in and see use and occupancy permit or demolition permit or permit application versus inspections. We will be offering those after hours and at least a session on the weekends. And the commissioner is committed to having one of those training sessions be presented in Spanish. Because we know there's a lot of contractors in different areas of the city that's their primary language. So if we can meet them where they're at, I think it'll be better for all of us. Just on that vein, to continue, the new system itself, the software we've purchased comes in English, but it has the ability to do a layover with Google Translate. So a user would be able to pick Spanish or Chinese, I think 5 or 6 different languages, to translate that web page into their language and be able to answer the questions and go through. The permit itself that they get is going to be in English, and our plans are to address some of those issues, is to have the common or the boilerplate language that shows up on the permit translated and available on our website, so that you may get a permit that gives the address and location and the description in English, but our standard stock language on that, you could then go to a website and download that and then match the two up to see where it says, make sure you call for your inspections, you did this under penalty of perjury, lead paint warnings, all those kinds of things can be translated over in that fashion. It would be very difficult for us to produce a document that had all those languages available in it. So that was our workaround, and we'll have language in the standard text that says, if you need this in Spanish or Chinese, visit this website.
Do you
So,
have a question on that?
yes,
subject?
if I may, Google Translate is not always accurate, and particularly since this is very technical language, I think that we need to have another way of doing it. And I don't know whether you've discussed that with MEMA, because this is technical stuff. So I don't really know if Google Translate is actually going to be accurate.
Most of what's on the permit that would get translated, on the permit application.
The application.
Isn't that technical in that sense. Now, plans and other things that need to be uploaded sometimes are pretty technical, but as you go through, it really is, pretty straightforward language.
Are you going to have someone on, that people can actually pick up the phone and talk to somebody to get them through, and then that person can either use language line or is a Spanish speaker?
Yeah, we would have the language line available. All our staff's been trained on how to use the language line, so that would be available if necessary. And I mean, that's what they do now as necessary.
Right.
But yeah, we know that Google Translate isn't the perfect solution, but it's the best available right now for having this website and being able to try and meet that need.
I think there's some AI stuff that seems to be a little bit more accurate, but I guess we can
Yeah.
talk through what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I think some of it is compatibility with how you overlay the stuff, but that gets a little bit more technical.
Well, we have our technical guy here, so Director Carter's here, so that's good.
Yep.
I was just curious about the Google Translate issue, whether or not there could be something else we could use for translation. Can you come up to the mic? I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to come, but here you are. Thank you.
That's okay. We're planning to work with MEMA to help us figure out what the best options are for the translation. I mean, just what you just said is the reason why we're doing that. So it may be a combination of Google Translate, some AI tool, but we'll figure that out. We literally just had a meeting yesterday when we talked about this.
Okay.
Just
yeah.
say who you are, too.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Todd Carter, Director for BSIT.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think some of the stuff that the 911 operation is doing with AI is pretty interesting. So, I mean, that's,
No, we are aware of what 911 is doing, and we plan to look into that
Okay.
as well.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, you can go ahead and continue
Yep,
with the.
no problem. We will, our goals for the system are to be able to manage inspections using a mobile device. Our inspectors will have a mobile app that they'll be able to use. The system will also transition from desktop to laptop to tablet to phone seamlessly. So, it shrinks to fit the right screen and be able to see. Right now, if you were to try and, if you were a contractor in the field trying to schedule an inspection off your phone, it's very cumbersome and very difficult to do. And in those cases, a lot of those contractors revert to calling into the IVR system instead, or having their office staff do it. So the new system, with it being compatible, it'd be much easier to schedule those inspections, and then you don't have to refer back to a code sheet that has the 4 codes for your type of inspection, or rely on your memory of what those codes are, and then a lot of times those end up getting inputted incorrectly and cause delays in inspections. So we see a lot of efficiency there in being able to use a mobile device to do the inspections and to schedule inspections. So I think I covered most of what's on that slide. I know this came up in, I think it was the vacant tax hearing last week or the week before. questions about the call center. So this is improvements we made, improvements that we've made so far before even launching this software is that we did set up, with the help of BCIT, a call center. We set this up in March of this past year, and it's been working tremendously with like a 96, 97, 98% answer rate. So in not just the call center with the 311 operators, so there are 4 311 operators that assist in handling calls. And they were trained in our office, and then we had trainers on site to give them as much knowledge as possible about the permitting process so they could answer, basic questions, help redirect people. Lots of calls into the permits office weren't necessarily for the permits office, so they can deflect those to the county or HABC or inspections office. But they do help in answering some of the more basic questions that don't require a permit tech and any kind of technical experience to assist with. And when that kind of question comes, they take the information and somebody reaches back out to them to resolve those issues. But what we've seen is, I can tell you, before the technology, this process went in place when the data was new back in November. In 1 week in November, we had over 3,000 calls to the permits office. When I broke it down by telephone number, because they were able to give me that data, it was only like 1,200 individual phone numbers, but it was 3,000 calls. Some people were calling 2, 3, 4 times because they couldn't get through, or didn't have the answer they needed, or it didn't work, and then had to call back. What we're seeing now is a reduction in those calls where it's, I think the calls handled by month is under 3,000 for most of the months on that chart. Maybe August was the only one that was over 3,000. So we went from 3,000 in a week to under 3,000 in a month, and those calls all being answered between 96 and 98% of the time, on the first call straight out. So that's a huge improvement. We're really happy with how it's working, and we're looking to expand it to other sections within code enforcement. So there's meetings set up with the with the registration and licensing office, zoning, plans review, inspections, everybody to expand it, because it really is working, and it allows the staff with the technical expertise to focus on their technical area of expertise and not telling somebody what the phone number is for Baltimore County inspections or Baltimore County permits or whatever it may be, because we get all kinds of calls. So it's working really well. The other thing we did is we reformatted the website. We worked with the Mayor's Office of Digital Services. They conducted, separate from us, user interviews, public users, contractors, homeowners. They interviewed our staff, they interviewed some of the inspectors and the permit techs. They reviewed all the materials that are on the website, and then they redesigned it. They also did UAT testing to make sure that it complied with all of the recommendations for a website as far as font size, font color, location of materials. Created drop downs so that people didn't have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to find what they were looking for. And all this was done separate from what's up and coming, the city's transition to a newer website support. Sorry, don't know the technical terms there, but what they've done will merge over. So it was done knowing that was coming, but we didn't wait for that to make those changes. We worked with them to make those changes back in August. I think it went live August, early September. We brought on the permit liaison. They actually moved from there. They were a former employee or a current employee of the city as a permit tech with experience issuing and processing permits and experience in the plans review section. So it's a promotion for that individual. They actually just moved upstairs from their permit tech desk to outside of, near my office on the third floor today, this morning. So they're getting everything, under their feet. They've started helping residents with permits and developers with permits, and we're going to be looking to expand that role. The main focus is as a liaison or in any kind of permit issues or anybody that's new to the city that's doing a project, that they can meet with them, put a face to the permits office, help maybe explain some common areas that are pitfalls for people applying. And then if there is any issue that comes up, help liaison with them either for our agency, or if there's an issue with the fire department or an issue with the Department of Public Works in relation to a permit or a plan, help be that conduit and not just say, oh, you need to go call DPW or you need to call the fire department. They'll help connect the pieces and get those permits and plans and inspections moving. I know Commander Eames is here, and the permit liaison reached out to him last week on a couple issues, and he was very responsive. And we had a discussion about how, it was working well to have, that person, be able to reach out and not be myself or Eric Guttenrether or somebody else having to reach out and see where an inspection was or a permit or a plan was. The other part of what we're going to have them do is look at some, I know this is an issue near and dear to you, Councilwoman, working with constituents that purchase vacant buildings that have been rehabbed but did not get all of their inspections or all their permits or a combination of that. The first one of those that the permit liaison is going to handle, I just gave it to her last week and had her do the workup. And then we're going to meet this week to call the person and talk through what's there, what's missing, what the next steps are, schedule the interior inspection. But we have an existing process of how we go through those. So it's just a matter of training the liaison, and then their job will be to track those, make contact, and then make sure that the communication between that person who thought they bought, a problem-free, fully rehabbed house, help them work through at least the city side of inspections and permits that may be needed to get them to where they should have been. So that's,
I have a question.
That's coming up very shortly.
Councilwoman Ramos.
I have a quick question about that. And I think the permit liaison idea came from our conversations around what to do with residents who inadvertently bought a house that has a VBN on it, but seems fully rehabbed. So is this person, so I have a few in my district, and there's one in particular that she's gonna need additional help from the city. She cannot afford to make the changes that need to be made in order for the VBN to come off. So is the liaison gonna work with Ms. Hart's office or Mr. Holland's office to try to get that taken care of for those residents? Some are fully rehabbed and they just need the last inspection. So that's question number one. And the other is, as you and I both know, that there's sometimes where a contractor isn't going to certify somebody else's work. And so do we have a backup plan if a resident can't find a contractor that's going to work with them on this problem? Is there somebody we have on call? Is there somebody that, how's that going to work?
Sure. This rehab vacant issue was something that was added to the permit liaison job. The permit liaison job was there really initially more for assisting or in the processing of permits and plans, but this fits in very well with that. So that was added in there. We do work on a couple of the cases we've had where somebody can qualify and the issues are that large that they need that assistance. We've worked with Ms. Hart's office to get the person into that loan or grant program, depending on what was needed and what was available. So we do that, and the liaison would have that information and be able to guide those people through that part and hand them off to a worker within really Mr. Holland's section to get them through that process. But we would help identify where those, issues exist and guide the person there. And it is, both extremes. Some are as simple as just go apply for your use permit and schedule the inspection. That's all you need because you got all your rough-ins, you got all your other inspections. What we've been doing is sending out a supervisor to do like a consultation and see where it's at. And if we can establish that, this is the purchaser was victimized, by a seller, and they thought that they were buying a fully rehabbed house, and that consultation will go through and look at where things are within the work that was completed based on what we can see. In some occasions, we may have to open some walls or some sections of walls, but we try to, after going through the permit history and doing that consultation, try to limit what's needed by the property owner to get to the point of a use and occupancy. When it's an extreme, that's a discussion we have to have with them and really weigh out the safety concerns. So we haven't gotten one that we haven't been able to work through, but it's definitely a possibility of getting to someplace where the entire electrical system needs to be replaced and you don't qualify for any of these programs. And, when we get there, we're gonna have to deal with that because there's not a lot of good ways to deal with that. And it may be that the property owner is gonna have to take out a loan or something else. And what we do also is refer them to both the law department, who now has a consumer protection section, and the AG's office, as well as private counsel, because they very well may have, a potential litigation against the seller or others involved in that transaction, where they can ultimately recover some of their costs. But
So are we, especially in light of the upcoming vacancy tax, we need to identify these folks fairly quickly, so that we get them through these processes fairly quickly, so that they're not penalized. I would hope that you've already started to work with council members to say, give me your list of people that you think went through this. I can kind of ballpark a little bit just looking at Code Map. I think, Councilman, I CC'd you on these. This was months ago. Somebody came to me in your district, and I CC'd the councilman. We worked through it. I believe your staff went to the house. But then I just was glancing at Code Map, and there were purple, right, meaning, homeowner occupied, but they had a VBN on it. And so there were like 10 in like a 3-block area near that one house. And so what I'm saying is we need to figure out how to identify them, not just by looking at Code Map, but being on the street, but also making it, because some people, again, still get the tax bill that, they're going to be in tax sale, and, they think it's a mistake and all of that stuff. So I think we just need to figure out a strategy to make sure that we're getting to everybody. I know Councilman Burnett has a bunch in his district. I think we all have a lot of them in the district.
Yep.
Is this the end to your presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Is this, do you have any more to the presentation?
Yeah.
I do have a
Pages,
couple more, but if I can answer this one and then continue on.
Okay.
Where was I gonna go? Okay.
We do have a few people that,
Are here to
public testimony.
Okay.
Well, we can work together on that, I guess. We can come up
Yeah,
with a
what I was
strategy.
gonna say is that our data team does look at recent sales and compare it to the vacant building notices, and then look at the differential. So where there's still a vacant building notice or a property that's sold, and it sold for a lot more than what it previously sold for, we use that as a red flag. So that's probably the best data point to use, because if you look at Code Map, it could have been owner
They're still
occupied.
left over from 2020, because remember, 2020 is when we started to see a spike in this happening, and they're still not remedied.
Yeah, so I have some that when I'm aware of, we come across, I think with the vacancy tax, there'll be a lot more that will pop up. But going forward to prevent it, not just, trying to make sure that realtors and others are aware and stop it, we're also looking at that and trying to catch them before the inspector even goes out there and posts the notice or anything. So we're doing that.
But I also think that it can be prevented by, as somebody, if they are going to use permits, that sometimes what happens is that at the final inspection, they just don't even call for. And so instead of waiting for them to call for their inspections, the permit office should get a notification that says, hey, you need to check on so-and-so's property and go out and inspect it, so that they, it's more proactive than reactive.
Yep. The new system will send out notices, and I forget the exact timing, but it sends out a notice to a permit holder. I think it's 30 days before expiration and then the day after expiration of any permit or file, so that they know that they either need to renew their permit or they're going to abandon it, basically. So that, goes out with information on scheduling your inspection, renew your permit, schedule your inspections. I don't know that we would be able to go out on every permit proactively that hasn't called for an inspection, because you need to get into these properties, and we just have enough staff to do, what's being called in right now. So we can have that discussion and think more about it for sure.
Yeah, because I think people are if they're not getting the final inspection, they just want to sell the property, they're not going to wait until the permit is expired.
Yeah.
So we can continue.
Yep.
You want to wrap up on this?
Sure. I have information here on staffing. So our building trade and demolition departments are very well staffed right now. We're always trying to fill mechanical and electrical inspector positions, but we're not doing too bad right now. The permit tech office was almost fully staffed, and then we just had promotion, a termination, and one person leave last week. So we already had the job posted, so hopefully we'll be able to fill all 3 positions with the postings that we have. But we're moving forward to hire in most of these positions. We do have 5 frozen or salary save positions currently, but they're not impacting our services. And then getting into the new Excella program, we are currently completing the development and testing of the system. So we've gotten data transferred over, and we are going through and matching up to make sure that the data in the new system matches up with what is in the existing system. We are creating permits and then seeing how they come out to make sure that the fees calculate correctly and everything looks right, the documents look right. And this is very intensive. You got to go through every permit type and every kind of scenario, both on the residential and the commercial side. So it's very time consuming, but it'll be worth it in the end, to avoid having any issues when we do launch. Our original launch date was January of 2025. We've pushed that to February 3rd. So we expect to move forward on February 3rd with the system. We're still on track with everything else, and training will be occurring in December of our staff as well as the public, and into January, just to make sure we hit as many people as possible and get the materials refined so that they can be up on the website and accessible to people after we launch. So that's the big update for the new program, and that's basically it.
Thank you for that. Any questions from members at this point? Otherwise, we can go ahead and move into
I have one more question.
testimony.
I just have one more question.
Go ahead. Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was curious about it sounds like there's going to be, the typical permits that everybody gets, and you sort of have a standardized application, et cetera. there's, every so often, somebody wants to put in what was it we were working on before? A stove of, that's not in
wood
the,
stove?
yeah, it was a pellet stove.
Pellet stove.
And so the permit office at the time, this was 2 years ago, was just like, what are we doing here? Nobody was giving her answers. They thought it was a big HVAC thing. Like, it was just crazy. And so, there's gonna be times where people are trying to do environmental things, maybe thermo, whatever, whatever it is. That's just not gonna be typical. So how is that going to work?
So most of the system is pretty generic. There's
There's
never.
no question, it's
Yeah.
mostly gonna be generic. It's
Yeah.
gonna be one in like
Right.
every, 6 months, it's gonna be something different, yeah.
Right, so even, like, the example of the pellet stove, I mean, that would fall under mechanical fixture. There's nothing in the system that says installing pellet stove or some other kind of stove or fireplace even. So it allows for stuff to go through. I think where it gets tricky is if you did come up with something that was completely outside of the code, in which case
You can't do it anyway.
you wouldn't be able to do it anyway, and you would need a code modification. And those will have to rise up to that level where they reach the permit liaison who can help, work that way through, the different inspectors' offices at the management level to determine how we're going to allow or not allow this, what's required and where does it fit in there. But the benefit of going with the software that we went with is that it's pretty well tested. It's used across the country. The main programmer that we're working with on their side used to be a code official 10 or 15 years ago, and actually went through the upgrade at their office with this program, and then I guess got stolen away. But it's been very valuable because there's times where they've brought up different things that they're familiar with because of their old job or because of implementation in Boston or Texas or here. And so those questions come up and we're able to say, like, yes, include that question because while we don't see it now, we might see it in the future, or we don't want to do that right now because it'll confuse people, but we know that it's there and we can turn it
Sure.
on later.
Right.
So there's that. There's also that they update their system twice a year. So as new things come up, new things become available, we'll get access to that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that answers the
so-
question. And then the marketing of it, there's such a bad reputation that, people don't want to pull permits or do work in Baltimore because of the terrible permit office. You're obviously trying to change that. Are we going to work also on a marketing strategy to say, be with good partners that are going through the process and can say, it's great to work in Baltimore City because we don't get in our way anymore? Like what, are we doing something like that? And maybe that's a question for the mayor's office?
Yeah, and at this point, our focus is getting the system up and,
No, obviously.
and getting the training done, but I think that that's valuable. We did do a survey before even starting to vet permit companies that had the software. And then we've been meeting with different focus groups in this process to get feedback. I didn't even talk about that in the slides, but to get feedback from them on just overall issues. And so our next meeting is on Thursday with some of the builders. And in those meetings have been really productive because it's not about any particular job or project, but rather just what they're hearing from their members, different issues. I'm able to share updates and statuses, and then they bring that back to their membership. So I think there's the ability to do some of that. And I know that the mayor's office has been working on other permit enhancements, let's say, that I think will be coming out in the future.
So we're going to stop there and move to public testimony, and I think we have 3 people that have signed up, or 3 people's names are on here for in-person testimony. And if you are online and wish to testify, please use your raise hand function and you can go after we have this public testimony. So if I pronounce your name wrong, please correct me. The first thing we have is Ricardo Collegia. I know I said your last name wrong. Colia? Yes, would you like to start? And you have with you your
Yaslin,
interpreter?
I will be interpreting.
Okay. Oh, okay. You can say your name again. Okay.
Buenas tardes, estimados miembros del Consejo. Mi nombre es Ricardo Calleja y estoy aquí para hablar de los desafíos y falta de transparencia que hemos encontrado en el sistema de adquisición de propiedades vacías de Baltimore.
Good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Ricardo Calleja, and I'm here to talk about the challenges and lack of transparency we have encountered in a system when it relates to acquiring vacant properties in Baltimore.
Nosotros estamos listos para invertir y rehabilitar una propiedad vacante aquí en Baltimore. Sin embargo, varios obstáculos nos están haciendo el proceso difícil o imposible.
We are ready to invest and revitalize a vacant property in Baltimore. In fact, there are many obstacles that are making the process difficult and impossible.
Existen una falta de información y acceso a la comunicación clara.
First, there's a lack of accessible information and a lack of clear communication.
Hemos constatado de que en el sistema de mapa de la ciudad, que supuestamente indica que las propiedades están disponibles, a menudo no está actualizado.
The map that is supposed to show the available properties in the system isn't updated or isn't showing accurate information.
Algunas propiedades señaladas como disponibles ya han sido renovadas, mientras que muchas viviendas vacías que hemos encontrado ni siquiera están en el listado.
Some of the properties are shown to be available but have already been renovated, and there are vacant properties that we know are not vacant but are shown in the system.
Incluso cuando intentamos aplicar a través del sistema, no hemos recibido ningún seguimiento. Esta falta de transparencia limita la capacidad de entidades locales y pequeñas.
Also, when we tried to apply through the system, there was no follow-up. The lack of transparency limits small entities like ours to compete with big corporations who seem to acquire properties quickly.
Para competir con grandes empresas de subasta y corporaciones que para adquirir propiedades relativamente un poco más fácil. Esta disparidad excluye a los miembros de la comunidad y pequeñas empresas locales que participan en el crecimiento y el desarrollo de la ciudad.
This disparity is excluding members of our community and small businesses that want to participate in the growth and development of the city.
No estoy aquí solo para expresar mis frustraciones. Queremos ser parte de la solución.
I'm not only here to express my frustrations, we want to be part of the solution.
Hemos estado promoviendo las encuestas del Departamento de Vivienda para ayudar a recopilar más opiniones.
We've been promoting the Department of Housing survey to help gather opinions, and we would like to work with the council to establish a system that will guarantee equitable access to vacant properties.
Nos gustaría trabajar con el Consejo para establecer un sistema que garantice el acceso asequible y equilibrado para propiedades vacantes.
Sí.
Un empoderamiento de los residentes locales contribuye a los residentes ser más fuertes de Baltimore.
One that will empower local residents to build a stronger Baltimore.
Gracias por su tiempo y su consideración. Estamos ansiosos por colaborar y crear un proceso más inclusivo y transparente.
Thank you for your time and your consideration. We are anxious to collaborate and create a more inclusive and transparent process.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Gina Cava? And she is Para?
Calva.
Cara, okay.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Gina Calva. Soy madre soltera y
Good afternoon. My name is Gina Calva. I'm a single mother
orgullosamente líder comunitario aquí en Baltimore.
and a proud community leader here in Baltimore.
Estoy aquí el día de hoy porque, como muchos, he enfrentado varios problemas de arrendamiento y condiciones de vivienda inadecuadas.
I am here today because, like many, I have encountered various issues with the inadequate living conditions that affect thousands of families in our city.
Algo que afecta a miles de familias en nuestra comunidad.
Something that affects thousands of families in our city.
El sistema actual para adquirir propiedades vacías parece estar diseñado para excluir a aquellos que realmente lo necesitamos.
The system to acquire vacant property seems to be designed to exclude those who need the most dignified and accessible living.
Una vivienda digna y asequible. No solo necesitamos más transparencia en el proceso, sino también un acceso real a información veraz.
Not only do we need a more transparent process, but real access to accurate information.
Las viviendas vacías en Baltimore representan una gran oportunidad de reconstrucción para nuestra ciudad.
The vacant properties in Baltimore represent a big opportunity to revitalize our city.
Y una oportunidad que lamentablemente la comunidad rara vez tiene la posibilidad de aprovechar.
It is an opportunity that unfortunately the community rarely has the possibility to take advantage of.
Lo que pido el día de hoy es equidad. Permitir que las familias como la mía acceder a una vivienda propia nos permitirá no solo vivir con estabilidad, sino también fortalecer el tejido social de nuestra ciudad.
Today I ask for equity, allowing families like mine to have access to a proper living that not only will allow us to have a stable living, but also strengthen the social fabric of our city.
Darle la oportunidad de comprar a los residentes en lugar de dejarle en manos de grandes empresas o inversores externos nos hará una comunidad más fuerte.
Give the opportunity to buy to our residents instead of big corporations and developers because it will strengthen our community.
Y en lugar de gastar nuestros ingresos en alquileres, podremos contribuir en nuestro patrimonio.
And instead of spending our money on renting, we can create legacy.
Mejorar nuestra calidad de vida y contribuir a un Baltimore más inclusiva y poderosa.
And improve our quality of life and contribute to a more inclusive and empowered Baltimore.
Es el momento de dar un paso adelante por la inclusión en el acceso a la vivienda.
It is the moment to take one step forward for inclusion and accessible housing.
Una ciudad que abre puertas a todos sus habitantes es una ciudad que prospera.
A city that will open its doors to all its residents is a city that will prosper.
Antes de agradecer su tiempo, quiero comentarles que es tan preocupante como madre soltera el día de hoy el tema.
Before I thank you for your time, I would like to tell you what is worrying me as a single mother today.
Que recogí a mi hija a las 11:40 que salió y solo me dio tiempo a llevarla a casa, darle de comer, traerla presentable para exponerles a ustedes mi gran preocupación como madre.
I had to go pick up my daughter today at 11:40 a.m., get her ready and presentable, and make sure I fed her so that I can come here today to express to you what worries me.
Me siento muy orgullosa de estar aquí representando a mucha comunidad que no tiene voz.
I am here and proud to represent a big community that doesn't seem to be represented or have a voice.
Y como latina que pago mis impuestos y llevo todo muy correctamente, solicito que por favor se tome en cuenta ahora mismo lo que acabamos de decir.
And like a Latina immigrant who pays her taxes, I would like you to take into consideration what I have been expressing today.
No es nada fácil estar de casa en casa con una niña pequeña intentando hacer las cosas bien en los Estados Unidos.
It is not easy hopping from home to home as a single mother with my daughter. ¿Cuál fue el último que dijo?
Porque no es fácil para nosotros como madre, para mí sobre todo, el estar yendo de casa en casa en un alquiler para buscar la seguridad de mi hija.
It's not easy home hopping and renting as a single mother and to be able to put a roof over her child's head.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and taking time and dedication in expressing yourself for you and your community.
Muchísimas gracias.
So we don't have a quorum, so we're going to go in recess, and we're going to, the committee will get an email notifying you when we're going to take our vote, which will be sometime on Monday, trying to get that like maybe right before our council luncheon. So at this time, we are in recess.